Hi, Mrs. Maholchek here. So for this video, we're going to evaluate functions. So for the given function, f of x equals 3 times 2 to the x, we are going to evaluate the function in two different forms. So the first form is, say we are given, for the function f of x equals 3 times 2 to the x, evaluate at f of, we'll say, negative 2. So at f of negative 2, what does the function equal? So if you look up here, it says f of x equals, right? Well, down below, it says f of negative 2. So it's f of, is the parentheses, f of negative 2. So here it says f of x, here it says f of negative 2. So you think about it, it was x, but what changed to negative 2? Well, x did. So we have to change all of our x's in our equation to negative 2. So f of negative 2 equals our equation 3 times 2 to the power of x, but x is now negative 2, so we plug that in. So 2 to the negative 2. So the first thing we're going to do, remember when you have negative exponents, you're going to flip the fraction over itself and the exponent becomes positive. So we have, technically this is over 1, right? Anything without a denominator technically has a denominator of 1. So we're going to get 3 times, if we flip this fraction, it becomes 1 over 2 to the second power, and our exponent becomes positive. So 2 to the second power. So if we complete that, we simplify it further. It's 3 times 1 over 2 to the second power is 4, so it's 3 times 1/4. And again, if we complete that even further, or simplify it even further, 3 times 1/4. Remember when you're multiplying fractions, you just multiply straight across. So 3 times 1 is 3, and 1 times 4 is 4. So we get an answer of 3/4. So if we go back to our original, f of negative 2, what does that equal when x is negative 2? Well, we found that it equaled 3/4. So f of negative 2 equals 3/4. Then we can also be given another type of problem. For the same function, f of x equals 3 times 2 to the x. For the same function, let's evaluate it at f of, we'll say, 2/3. I'm sorry, 3/2. Sorry. So we're going to say f of 3 over 2, 3/2. So when, again, x turned to 3/2, so we need to change our other x to 3/2. So that's going to be 3 times 2 to the 3/2 power. So when we take 3 times 2 to the 3/2 power, 2 to the 3/2 power is a radical. So we need to rewrite 2 to the 3/2 power as a radical so we can simplify it. So this equals, this equals 3 times 2 to the 3/2 can be written as a radical. So we're going to have a radical. Remember, our base is our radicand, what's inside. Our numerator is our exponent. And our denominator is our index. So 2 to the 3/2 power is the same thing as square root of 2 cubed. So 3 times square root of 2 cubed. So if we simplify that, we get 3 times, remember when we have something to a power inside the radical, we want to expand it. So it's going to be the second root or square root of, if we expand 2 to the 3rd, it's 2 times 2 times 2. So for square root, the index of 2 tells us we need a pair. We need a group of 2 to pull it out. Whatever's left stays inside. So we have a pair of 2's. So we're going to pull that out. And then we have 1, 2 left over, so that stays inside. So that is written as 3 times, we pull out a 2, And then what's left inside is square root 2. So square root 2. When you simplify that, you get 6. 3 times 2 is 6, so you get 6 square root of 2. You can have the 2 there. You don't technically need it because the square root is the most common root. And so you don't technically need that 2 on the outside, but you can write it if you want. And so we get an answer of 6 times the square root of 2, and that was evaluated when x was 3/2. So at f of 3/2, your function equaled 6 times the square root of 2. And that would be your answer. The final type of problem you'll see with these is given the same exact function. So we'll go back, f of x equals 3 times 2 to the x. So 3 times 2 to the x. You'll be asked to answer something such as f of x equals, we'll say 3/8. F of x equals 3/8. So if we read our equation again, it says f of x equals 3 times 2 to the x. Here it says f of x equals 3/8. Well, f of x has not changed. F of x is the same. Because f of x is the same, we can substitute 3/8 in for f of x. So substitution, we know what f of x equals, so let's plug it in. So if we know that f of x equals 3 times 2 to the x, but we know f of x equals 3/8, let's plug in 3/8 for f of x. So we get 3/8 equals 3 times 2 to the x. So now we have to solve for x. So what we're going to do is, we're trying to get x by itself and everything with it. So let's get rid of the 3. So opposite operations, right now it's multiplying, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to divide by 3. And this side we're going to divide by 3. So here we get 1. This becomes 1. So on the right side we're left with 2 to the x. On the left side we have 3/8 divided by 3. So we have to simplify that. So I taught you keep, change, flip. Keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep our first term, 3 to the 8th. We're going to change our sign. Our sign right now is dividing, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to multiply. And we're going to flip our last term. Well, right now it's 3/1, so it's going to become 1/3. And you multiply straight across. So 3 times 1 is 3. 8 times 3 is 24. If we reduce that, we get 1/8. So 3/8 divided by 3, or 3/8 divided by 3, equals 1/8. So this becomes, the left side becomes 1/8. The last step, we haven't taught you how to solve for variables in your exponents yet, but you can kind of take a look at it. You know 2 right now is above the division bar, right? It's over 1. So somehow it has to go on the bottom. Well, the only way it's going to flip to the bottom is if it's negative. So x has to be something negative. And then 2 to what power equals 8? Well, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, so 3. So it's going to be -3. So one way to check is write 1/8 equals 2. We're saying x is -3. So plug it in there. Now simplify your right side. Well, when you have a negative exponent, remember you're going to flip it. So it's going to be 1/2. Your exponent becomes positive. Well, what is 1/2 to the third? Well, that's 1/2 to the third power is 8. 2 times 2 times 2. So this is how we get 1/8 over here. So we found x is -3. So f of -3 is what equals 3/8. So our answer is x equals -3. If you're having trouble, please let me know. Write what you need on your note card, and good luck studying.